Boom. Hello, friends. So, wow. Have I got a guest for you? I thought I was mental. Let's get into it. Boom. Ali, how are you, my dear?
I'm so tired. So tired. I'm tired. I just got back from my holidays.
Yes. And you went to the Philippines?
I did go to the Philippines. I did my first proper big girl holiday for since COVID, I think. So yeah,
Yes.
since COVID. So yeah, that was nice.
And
But yeah,
Philippines, quite an unusual destination for a sort of first holiday. I mean, I went to the Philippines, but I sort of went there because it's one of these places you hear about, and I'd been to shitloads of other places, so I thought it was about time to go to the Philippines. But
yeah. See, I've done a lot of the traveling I've done has been running. So it's been like go and run across this country, or go and do that country, or go and do this, do that. And so this was like, where do I want to go where I can actually just switch off for three weeks? And originally it was Thailand, but I've been to Thailand twice, and I was like, fuck that, I might as well go. Let's go to the Philippines for a week. But then I was like, let's just go for 3 weeks. So we went for 3 weeks, and it wasn't long enough because there's literally 7,000 islands make up the Philippines. 7,000 islands. So you're never going to get around them all, are you? You're just not. And I think I managed about four. But it was incredible. I loved it. It's the only thing was the absolute hammer blow of how badly we're messing with the environment, because it was just an absolute. I'm trying not to swear too much. It's an absolute
yes,
shit show of plastic everywhere
yeah, I
in
went.
every bit of sea.
We'll come back and talk about that. I just want to say, friends at home. Ali, incredible human being, a bit like myself. We've been through the mill, folks. We've come out the other side and we've learnt a few things. And so this podcast is just about talking about the muck and brass of life. Like, why do we battle the booze? Why is it a lot of people have a booze problem, probably won't admit it? Why is it we're going to have a dry January, why is it we only stop poisoning ourselves for like 1 month a year? That is a bit mental.
But also, why is it we make such a massive fuss about it? Because if it wasn't that hard, we wouldn't make a massive fuss about it, would we?
If we
But we
weren't
do.
a nation of drunkards, then
Exactly.
it wouldn't be an issue, would it?
No.
So we're going to talk about resilience, folks. How do you build your dream life? I'm not talking, nonsense here. Everybody should wake up in paradise every day because, hey, look, Ali, I'm going to plug my book before yours. Because it's a state of mind. Dun,
Oh
dun,
God, here
dun.
we go. Here we go.
I could have
Oh,
just gone like that, couldn't I?
have you written a book? Oh, yeah, I didn't mention it. The 6 books you've written.
Yes. No, I won't mention my book. Well, I mean, maybe I will, but no. It's serious. There's so many people are unhappy or struggling, and like, we get it. I just want to say to anyone right from the start, that is part of the journey. Your paradise is here waiting for you. You can't get to it unless you have the struggles, because you need to learn how to get through the door, and those struggles teach you. So we've got Gary here in the chat. He seems a bit upset. Says, I hate my life. I'll get the chat up. And Gary, we've all been there, mate. I don't think I've ever would say I've hated my life. Ali, would you say that? Are
Do you
you?
know what I think is really important to remember? Is that happiness is a fucking myth. It's a myth, like being able, drinking is normal is a myth. It's a perpetual myth that we are sold that there is this end goal of happiness that we can get to, and it's there so that people can sell you books, and so they can sell you therapy, and so they can sell you pills, and so they can sell you cars, and so that all you need to do, right, is walk through the duty-free section of a airport and look at what they're selling, like I did yesterday. Perfume, makeup, booze, fags, all these things are going to make you better and make you happier and make you more attractive and make you happy, right? Same with Christmas. This will make you happy. Happy, 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 happy. There's 4 fucking myths about happiness, right? One is that it's the natural state of human being, which is absolutely not. Fear is the natural state of human being. Number 2 is if you're not happy, you're defective in some way, which is bollocks. Not people are not happy all the time. That happiness is not the natural state of human being. Fear is. Number 3, to create a better life, you need to get rid of negative feelings. That's bollocks as well, because you need the negative feelings to protect yourself and also to balance out the good feelings, bad feelings. And number 4 is that you should be able to control how you feel. Like, you can't control how you feel, but you can control your response to how you feel, right? So I think this you can get to a point where you will be happy. This promise is a fallacy. And I think it's saying, let's have a look at what's going on right now. And if you hate what's going on right now, is it Gary? Let's look at why you hate it. Let's go why you hate it, what the response as opposed to the reaction to that could be, and what's more helpful and what is unhelpful. Because I think it's a really dangerous game to play, to say, if you do this, you will be happy. That's what the book's about. My book's about, hey, look, here's my book, right? That's the whole thing about my book, is that people said to me, if you start running, you'll be better. You won't, your life will get, but you won't be depressed. You'll be happier. Running will save you. It doesn't save you. It's therapy, neither just getting married to the love of your life, neither just moving to the Philippines or getting a dog. You have to save yourself. I think that's the thing people need to understand. Fucking own your shit. Like, own your shit. And when you start with that acceptance, then you can start to move forward.
When
but
you
the
say
other bit of acceptance is life is hard. It's 50% shit. Life is 50% shit. It is. That is how it is.
Yes. So it's when I say to people spiritual battle, it's a challenge. You know, you gotta do the things. You can't just sit watching videos and then wonder why it's not working.
No, and you can't just read a book and wonder why it's not working for you, and you can't just go to therapy and wonder why it's not working for you, because you have to do the work. If you're not doing the work every fucking day, like me and you understand what the work is, because we have to do it every day, you're not going to get a result. And I think there is a real instant gratification thing that goes on in society nowadays, where people think, if I do this, this is what's going to happen. But that's not what's going to happen. It's like going to a French teacher for an hour and then expecting to be fluent in French. You have to practice the French every single day with French people to get better at French, right? If you stop speaking French, you'll forget how to speak French. And it's the same with this going, I'd say contentment with your life, contentment or fulfillment. You've got to practice every day, whether that's gratitude, whether it's changing your lifestyle, whether it's giving up the booze, whether it's accepting you've got a problem with some sort of addiction. If you can do that, you can do it every day, you will get to the point where you're like, do you know what, things are actually okay.
Yes. And in this media world of clicking and scrolling, it's all too easy to get swept up in constantly seeking for other people to fix your life for you. And at the end of the day, as you and I both know, you got to, whatever your thing is, folks. Ali and I like running. I say to people, if you can't run, bloody walk. If you're in a wheelchair, you can wheel. But action, I've found, creates action.
But action creates motivation. People think it's the other way around. They think the motivation creates action, but it doesn't. Action creates that motivation to like do better. I don't even know if it's better, but it's about, you know, if you look at the ideas around success or even happiness, what is it? What is your definition of being happy? You know, like, what is your definition of being successful? Doesn't have to be what everybody else's is. It's what is yours. And my definition of success is being able to sit in front of the TV with my dog at the end of the day, give her a little stroke on the head and go, have I made a difference to someone's life today? If the answer is yes, fucking bang in, on to the next one. It's not about how much money I've got in the bank or what car sitting on my drive. I don't give a fuck about that. Or, you know, whether I'm married or whether I've got kids or whatever. That's not for me. It's whether I feel like I am fulfilled inside. And I think with Gary, it'd be really helpful for him to go into this. Why is it that what is it he hates? Write a fucking list, get a notebook, write things down, journal, all those things.
What I've just been showing your Instagram, you're getting quite some traction. I found the whole media thing funny. I think I was saying to you earlier, Ali, I don't try and hit any algorithm. So, I'm a military guy, or I did a bit of time in the military, but I don't just want to do military shit. I hate war. I think it's all a nonsense. I think it serves the power elite, and that's it. I love running, but I don't just want to have an Instagram about running. I try and do motivational videos every day. Just when I'm out on my run, I do a little right, legends, today, have a think what you're grateful for, because that's where it starts. If you're grateful for life, there you go. That's your reason for living, isn't it? And we haven't all of us always had a reason for living. But when you think, hang on, do I want to be here? Well, yeah, because it's bloody amazing, this life. And if you think about the chances of actually coming into this body and these molecules or whatever is probably trillions upon trillions to one. And then to come down through the ancestors, through whatever we're going to put a figure, I have got no clue, but they say 4.5 billion years since the earth formed, and that it created Chris. What do I want to do? Do I want to be grateful for that or unhappy about it? I think gratitude.
But I think that in order to feel that gratitude, you have to hit the bottom. You have to know what it's like to hit the bottom, which is really unfortunate. Yes. But you have to know what it's like, because otherwise you can't. Because when I fucking hit the bottom, before I'd hit the bottom, I was like, I just want to die. I don't want to be like this. I want to die. Yes. And I was like that for a really long time. And that's okay as well. It's okay to feel like that. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you a freak. It doesn't make you ill. It doesn't make you it's okay. Because if you say that, people freak out and they're like, get the men in white coats. You've got something wrong with you. And it's like, it's okay to feel like that, to say it and then to work on it. That's when you can get the help that you need to realize that gratitude is a really, really important thing to have. And there are still days now where I'm like, I've just had an interesting thought about topping myself, but I don't do it. I just recognize the thoughts there, and that's okay. And that thought alone won't kill me. But I think it's not easier. It makes more sense to people like me and you who've seen the abyss to be really grateful for that sunrise. This morning, it was dark when I got up, and I'm used to now getting up at 5:30 and it being light because I've been in the Philippines for 3 weeks. But instead of going, oh, fuck, this is shit, I'm like, oh, do you know what? It's great. I'm actually going to get to see a sunrise this morning, and I haven't seen one for ages. So that's really, really good. I'm excited about it. And it's the shortest day. So, it's having those you can only have those little bits if you accept the bad bits. So actually, it's a gift to have that I feel shit. It's a gift to really get into it. It's a gift to be able to look that abyss in the eye, because then you can be grateful. But it's really hard to tell people that haven't understood what's going on. It's really hard for them to ever see past that I just don't want to fucking be here thing. But I say this in the book, it's all right to feel like that. And that how people talk about the stigma of mental health is gone. You can talk about your mental health. You fucking can't. Because if you say to somebody, I want to kill myself, and I've thought about driving my car into the Central Reservation 4 times today, they'll just look at you blankly and be like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. Because of that shame and that stigma, which is still there.
Yes, sorry, I'm just taking a moment to take that in. Ali, I just meant to say, if you see me looking over there, I'm not ignoring you. That's where all the comments are coming up. So I'm just choosing some class ones. And thank you.
God, I can't even see comments. What are the comments? What are they saying about me, Chris? What are they saying?
They're all saying you're awesome. And again, spiritual battle is, it doesn't matter what they say, Ali, does it? It matters what we do with our lives. As long as we're putting out peace, love, kindness, and empathy, we don't explain ourselves to.
That's the thing, right?
No
you
one.
Know what you were just saying about Instagram. Why does it matter how many Instagram followers you have?
Yes.
Why does it matter? Why do you care?
I think the point I was making is Instagram don't. I'm just curious. I'm quite interested that you're doing a lot. It is a funny world where putting pictures of ourselves, which is something that I do because I'm a content creator and it's kind of expected, and I never put pictures of my family, so it's always just me. So I can't do, I've got a wonderful friend called Matthew Pritchard, He from the TV series Dirty Sanchez, and he's a massive ultra runner, legendary chef, tattoo artist, all these wonderful. And he kind of includes all his friends and his family, and he does videos, and he's a class video editor as well. He does it all, I think, on his phone. I think he was telling me, and I can see why he does well at Instagram. It's like he's letting you into his life all day long. I find if I get my phone out, my son's like, "Dad, off your phone, please." And you met my son, Ali. He's 8 years old, and when an 8-year-old's telling you get off you kind of have to listen, because that's divinity speaking to you, you know. And I don't know. It's kind of funny. There's a chap called Silverback Tarzan, and he's great. I follow on Instagram. He's a guy, he does not give up about anything. He's clearly in his 60s. He's got a body like literally like a gorilla. Like, I mean, he's a muscle boaster. Not steroids or nothing, just naturally does all the calisthenics or whatever you call it. He'll walk down the street and he'll just go and hang off a lamppost sideways. It's funny as hell. And he does videos in the supermarket. Right, don't buy that shit. That's full of sugar. That's just chemicals. Right, and I love it. But I'd feel a bit of a wanker going, you know, taking my shirt off at every single opportunity, even though, and this is like one of the weird things about my life, Ali, I've still got the body now that I had when I was 19. I haven't even...
The thing is, like, just going back to the Instagram thing, don't do it then. Like, what is it for? What are you doing? Like, you've got to zoom out and be like the wise observer in this. Don't do it because everyone else is fucking doing it. Having 12,000 Instagram followers doesn't mean anything to anybody. It means nothing. All I care about, the reason I started that account, which was started like 8 years ago, was because I was doing these ultras and people were saying to me, I could never do that. And I'm like, no, you can, because at the time I was an alcoholic, which isn't to say to people, I'm an alcoholic, because I hadn't admitted it to myself. But I was like, you can. Don't say you can't do these things. I'm a totally normal person and I'm really enjoying it. And so the reason I started that account was just to go and do these runs. Then I just literally was recording what I was doing. And I was being very honest about it because I didn't care. I was like, I'm just showing other people that are interested, whether that's 2 people or 2 million people, what I'm doing. And when I feel sad, I'm going to say I feel sad. And when I'm depressed, I'm going to say I'm depressed. And when it goes tits, I'm going to say it's gone tits. And here's my dog. And I don't, that's why I started it. People were interested because I traveled because of the job I was doing. And I was doing these like world first, running across frozen lakes and deserts and jungles and all that stuff. And the more honest I was about my mental health, the more people were interested. But I've never cared about followers. I'm not interested in how many followers I have. I'm interested in if my work, the work I do as a coach, the work I do writing the book, the work I do as a speaker and a podcaster and a content creator, whether that is helping people to have some self-belief and to go, do you know what? I think I might have a problem with alcohol, or do you know what? I think I might have a problem with addiction, or do you know what? I'm really, really unhappy and I've not told anybody and I don't know how to say it, but Ali's helped me to be able to verbalize it and now I've got the help I need. That's all I care about. I do not care about numbers on Instagram. It holds no interest to me. I don't make money out of it. Everything I've done and achieved in my life has nothing to do with my amount of Instagram followers, and everything to do with what I've created with my fucking brain. And I just think it's something that people are like, a lot of people are like, how'd you do that? And I'm like, I don't know. And I don't care. I literally don't care. There are so many people that have got hundreds of thousands of followers who are talking absolute garbage. Absolute garbage. They're lying. They're selling things that people don't need. They're basically making money off of people's insecurities. And it's just disgusting. I hate Instagram. If I didn't have to go and put my stuff on there because of coaching, that's where I get the majority of my clients from, or to promote the book, to promote the tour, to promote all the stuff I'm doing, I wouldn't use it. But I have my own little bubble of Instagram. I stick in it. And anyone that annoys me, I unfollow and never look at again. But I feel like you have to be in the playground in order to be able to like call out the bullies. That's why I think it's still important to still stay on there, because I can say that person's talking shit. That person's talking shit. That person says that they're this, but I know because the last time I saw them, they were off their face and smoking a fag, even though they put themselves out as the pinnacle of like all like health. Like it's just a one. I always say Instagram is 1%. It's a 1% of the iceberg you see. You do not see the 99% of the iceberg at the bottom.
Are you saying
I don't
that?
know what's going on with people on Instagram.
Are you saying that ultrarunners might smoke a fag?
I know about 5 ultrarunners that smoke fags, but would never put a photo of themselves smoking a fag on the front of their book, which is what I did. Because I was like, at that point the photos were taken, I've been smoking fags for 28 years. Yes. I only gave up 4 months ago, and I gave up because I was like, I'm really not very good at getting up mountains and I need to get quicker at getting up them. The last thing I need to give up now is the cigarettes. But I was sober for 2 years before I attempted the fags because I was like, I can't put too much pressure on myself. And even now, I'm like, fucking, if one thing has to go, it'll be back on the fags rather than back on the booze. But at the moment, I'm not on the fags or the booze, which is a minor miracle.
So
it's a miracle.
Tell me then, because don't want to tread on anyone's toes here, but like, I don't know. I'm always, Ali, been fiercely independent. Like, you know, what was it? Love everyone, listen to a few, but always paddle your own canoe. Mm-hmm. And for that reason, I stayed away from any self-help or help groups. I've stayed away from doctors, nurses. Everything you see, I've worked out myself, or I've read a book on it. What am I saying? It is a funny world we live in. I hate this. I don't hate. It's not the right word, but when it comes to addiction, you get very segregated thinking. So I just flashed up a picture of you smoking, me smoking, and it's, what am I saying? Like, I never gave up nothing, Ali. I think, you know, I think people have bought into that Hollywood tale that, you know, person has problem, crashes badly, gets up, puts problem behind them, goes on. You know,
such a load of shit.
You know, that kind of like one drink is too many, 10's never enough, and all, like, I get that. And what I'd say to anyone is, if you're going to lose your wife and your kids and kill yourself, yes, get into a group, absolutely. You know, if it works for you, great. I was little bit different, because I was quite lucky. The majority of my screwing around was I was single, so it didn't really, and I couldn't care less about. Well, I mean, I couldn't say I couldn't care less, but I've never been that scared of anything, Ali. So, you know, I mean, I.
Why did you stop drinking?
Oh, what a good question. So first off, I'd say I might still have a pint if I so choose. I might even get hammered if that's, but I choose not to, because if I nailed it down to 2 main reasons. First of all, I'm a role model now. Well, not just for our lovely friends out there. I hope I, you know, do a bit for people, but I'm a father. And when you bring someone into this world, you got to put your money where your mouth is and stop being a knob, you know, because if you keep up that behaviour, all you're doing is you're putting it onto your kids. And someone once said to me, they say, Chris, just imagine your little lad when you're dead and he's an adult and he's wandering down the street with a bottle in his hand, bouncing off the walls. Is that the legacy you want to leave behind? And I'll tell you what a bloody awakener that was. Mm-hmm. That's that. The second reason, Ali, is when I say I wake up every day in paradise, I'm not being a dick. I do. I absolutely do. I'm not saying I don't, like you very well pointed out. Of course there's challenges. Life isn't always the way you want it to be.
No.
But even when them challenges are coming at me, it's like I'm a rower on an ocean and there's some big old waves coming in. But do you know what? I chose to be rowing that ocean, and that's it.
that's the thing, right? It's that waking up in the morning going, everything's okay, I'm okay. And I think until you've hit the bottom of the barrel, that's a really difficult thing to do. Because I was an alcoholic for 20 odd years, 28 years maybe, and I knew I was ill, but I denied and denied and denied and denied. And other people told me, like, we're like, I'm worried about you, this, that, the other. And I'm like, do you know what? I'm swearing so much, I'm so sorry. But I was like, fuck off. I'm not. I'm fine. You don't understand. I'm fine. I can cope. I'm fine. And I've never had anyone else. I've never had the other person thing. I've never had a responsibility to anyone else because I was married for a while, but that was a totally different story. That's in the book. And I never had any kids. And I think you honestly have to do this stuff for yourself. So where it's great to be like, I'm a role model to my kids and I want to set the best barrier I can. For a lot of people, that doesn't stop them either because it's addiction. And addiction, by its very nature, is something that it doesn't really matter who's telling you or what's going on. You will keep doing it. One of the things that annoys me is when people say, oh, you've just swapped one addiction for another. So like you're addicted to running. You're not addicted to running because with alcohol or drugs, you will literally do anything to get alcohol or drugs. Anything. It doesn't matter how ill you feel, how little money you've got, or who's standing in your way, you'll do anything. Whereas with running's actually quite hard. If you're injured, you'll stop running. If you're injured, you'll stop. But if you're injured with that booze, you won't stop. You won't stop because you're an addict. It's totally different behavior. Like addiction is ritualized comfort seeking, same as running is. But with addiction, it a lot of the time is out of your control. And it's only when you decide to take the control back that you can stop it. And what you just said about when you're waking up in your own paradise, even though I have depression, even though I have all sorts of shit that goes on, even though I get super sad, you're right. Because every day I wake up sober, I'm like, I can deal with this. Whatever it is, I can deal with it. And because I'm being really honest and I'm sharp and I can see really fucking clearly. And, when I got super sick, it was 2.5 years ago, I stopped drinking and I hit the bottom of the barrel, scraped my face all over the floor. Was like, I'm going to want to just end it all. I defined my values. One of the things I did when I came, I had to go and see a psychiatrist he was like, what are your values? And I'm like, I don't know. So I defined my values there and then as kindness, honesty, and authenticity. And everything I do points back to those values. People I work with, podcasts I go on, the brands I support, the people I hang out with, the books I read, the holidays I go on, all of it. And that's why I stopped smoking. Because I'm like, I need to stop smoking because I want to be the best runner I can be. And I know it's stopping me. I'm not ashamed of it. I don't have no problem with but I know that it's actually physically harming me. So I can't honestly say to people, I'm doing the very best I can in this race if I'm not actually looking after my own health. Yeah. That's why I stopped. That's the only reason. And I was like, I think I'm safe now to try and not do this as well as not do the booze. It was just too much at the same time. Having said that, there's a really great book by a woman called Laura McEwen called We Are the Lucky List. And she's just written a new book called Push Off From Here. And in that book, she talks about how being an addict is like living on the edge of a canyon. Like you feel more alive than other people, but also closer to death than other people because you live on this edge. And every morning when you wake up in paradise, you open this tent and you can see the edge of the canyon. And you're like, am I going to fall in today? I might fall in today. I'm going to choose not to fall in today, but I might. And it's that's the difference, I think, is like just constant awareness, which is quite exhausting, of what could happen. And for me, what could happen will be a disaster. So there is no ever having one. There is no ever having one cigarette. There's no ever having one drink. There's none of that. It's like totally non-negotiable. It's not in line with my values. And that was quite long. Sorry, that was quite ranty. I'm very tired.
That's a great point. To finish what you were asking me, what why do I choose not to drink? There's another part of it. First of all was the role model thing, but the other part, Ali, is I really got into, I'm just going to call it spirituality, and I know that sounds knobby. What essentially I'd rather call it is alchemy. The study of the chemicals in the brain, from the endocrine glands, your serotonin, your DMT, your cortisol, your adrenaline, your dopamine. And I became fascinated with the fact that I follow a YouTube channel, a friend of mine called John St. Julian, who enlightened me to the fact that there's a different life out there that some people live that I wasn't living.
Mm-hmm.
A bit like that thing when you go to a rave and you're all off your heads and having a boogie, and like all the rest of society don't even know it's going on, and you're kind of like in the club. It's like that. It's a healthy rave, and it's not a secret. It's open, available to anyone. And I got into it, Ali, and I started to decode scripture. So friends at home, nothing to do with religion. Absolutely, literally put that out of your head. Not talking churches, God, Jesus, although there's some relationships there. Talking about how for thousands of years people have recognized if you live in a certain way, your glands produce certain chemicals and they lift you to a place called paradise, or milk and honey, serotonin and DMT. And once I got into this, Ali, I'm quite a extreme person. If I got into matchbook collecting tomorrow, or box of you'd come round my house, I'd suddenly have like 7,000 boxes of matches in 3 days. I'm just...
You're like my friend Alan.
Yes.
You're like my friend Alan.
Yes.
He's like that.
When I came last in my first ever triathlon, so I said, right, I'm going to do a quadruple Ironman
There you go.
In 4 weeks 4 weeks time, right? I'm just yeah. Anyway, so it's the same thing with. I thought, do you know what? I could sit in a pub, and I've done it twice lately. I've sat in a pub with my mates. They're all like, on the 7th or 8th pint, and I'm there completely sober. At worst, I bummed a cigarette off someone just to, have my little bit of badness, and that was it. It was just one rollie. That I've done that twice, if not.
Can you do that? Can you just have one?
Yeah.
Oh,
but here's the thing, Ali. You got to understand. When the reward becomes so big, and remember, I live in paradise. I'm not leaving it. Mm-hmm. I'm not leaving. So, sorry, I don't want to make this about me, but to cut a long story short, I thought, do you know what, Chris? Rather than master the drugs and the alcohol, which you've done really well, and you've lost a lot of friends through it. Like literally, I've lost friends in my company that I've watched.
Were they your friends?
Yeah, my best mate drowned when we took LSD one time.
Oh, I thought you meant people just left you.
Oh no. I'm like, yeah,
cool.
yeah.
You can go. You're not welcome to the party anyway.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm just saying that one of my I'm talking best friends now that I knew for years and years. We partied together. One drowned when we took LSD. One drank himself to death, and in one night his body just went boom and kaput and gave up. It was horrible to see. My mate Rob drank himself to death, and you got to watch all that. The body giving up. It's. I thought, do you know what, Chris? You've done all that to death. Why don't you try and master the enlightenment stuff? Why don't you just use it, make it your hobby? And that's what I did, Ali, and that's what it's become. Mm-hmm. And I'm not like obsessed with it like I have. Because I think if you become obsessed with anything, you've lost the whole point of it.
Yeah.
It's like
this is your leisure time. You should be enjoying things rather than being obsessed with them.
Yeah.
I say that to my clients all the time. Like, why are you so stressed out about this race? It's your leisure time. This is to be enjoyed, not to be like a stressor.
Yeah, and so sorry, I'm a bit spun out. I got Ian's trying to enter the waiting room, and we just Ian, if you're watching.
Who's Ian?
I think it's my next podcast. It's a lovely chap. Ian has done a few podcasts with me, but yes. So there you go. It's it's like when you've driven a Ferrari. Do you want to go back and drive a Mini? Well, paradise is the Ferrari. Drinking and the depression that comes with it, and the come down, and the not feeling yourself for 3 days, and the making a dick of yourself, the shoving down like free kebabs, and I'm not knocking that. If anyone wants to live that, if you're happy, do it. I did it for 35 years. I was off my head.
But why did you do it? Why were you doing it?
Right. Well, this is what I think we should come on to. So I had your stereotypical, like, not nice childhood. No, I mean, no, not all of it was bad, but there was some stuff that went on there, Ali, that was pretty dark. I think when you look at people that are subject to addictive patterns, unresolved childhood trauma is a major driver. Not for everybody. And I think, probably looking back, I never quite felt myself. I always had sort of probably like an underlying anxiety, uncomfortableness, even though I didn't know it. I joined the Marine. I mean, I passed out the toughest military course in the world, for Christ's sake. I didn't go, hey guys, I'm a little bit different to you. You just don't know it. But when I look back, I started self-medicating with coffee, believe it or not, when I was 10.
Coffee? Yeah. That came way later for me. The coffee's come later for me.
I was running home from school to put the kettle on to make an instant coffee, even though I didn't know why, Ali. And of course it was because it was changing my brain state. Then 9% homebrew by the time I was like 13. And then, then the rest is history. And 35 years later, you look back and go, hang on, I didn't need to do any of that stuff.
The thing is, you did need to do it. It was ritualized comfort seeking. You did need to do it because you didn't understand what was going on and you didn't have another way of doing it. That's why there's no shame in it. There is no shame in it. Like addiction, the shame around it is horrific, and that's where it breeds.
Do you think so? Because
it is. It's 100%. Like, it's like, there are so many people listening to this that know that they have a problematic relationship with alcohol, because alcohol is the easiest one to get. You get it everywhere. Plus, it's Christmas, so we all should be doing it, because ding dong merrily on high, the most merry time of the year. Everybody have a drink. Oh, you don't drink normally? Have a drink now. Oh, come on, you could just have one. It's Christmas. Have a drink. Everyone's having a drink. Fuck that. It is horrific how it's pushed at us as normality. It's not normal. It is not a normal thing to do. And when someone says to you, you go in somewhere at Christmas and you say, no, thank you, I'll just have this. They say, why aren't you drinking? Whereas when you sat around the Christmas table and you say, no, thank you, I don't want any bread sauce. They don't go, well, why aren't you having any bread sauce? I'll have a bit of bread sauce. Oh, go on, everyone's having bread sauce. Alcohol is the only thing that is pushed, the only drug that is pushed at you by other people, because they don't understand why you won't have it, because you not having it makes them feel uncomfortable about having it. That's because a lot of people have this relationship that they won't admit to because they're ashamed, because it's not good to be an addict. When I was in the Philippines the last few weeks, I've got loads of tattoos on my arms, loads. And I was like, there's not a lot of people with tattoos here and not a lot of tattoo shops. I'm like, I wonder if there's a tattoo thing. And I spoke to a tattooist because I found a tattoo shop and I got a new tattoo. And he said, tattoo means addict and addicts are bad. And I'm like, right, now we're getting down to the nitty gritty. Addicts are bad people. Not bad people. We're people. And there's so many of us that are hidden from view because people on the school run, people that you know, everywhere. Functioning addicts are everywhere. Because we are trying to deal with something that we don't know how to deal with. And for me, like you, it was, you're not good enough. You're not enough. Or you're too much this. And I found that if I drank, people liked me more. Men liked me more. They'd stay around more because I'd have sex with them when I was drunk. So they'd like me more. And throughout my whole life, my whole career, I worked in the music industry for 12 years. Then coming into the running, I was never good enough. I'm not good enough at ultra running. I don't win things. I was never good enough in the music industry. I was told constantly that I was lucky to be there. So I drank because I couldn't cope. I didn't know what to do. And I thought the drinking made me more fun and the drinking made me the person everybody wanted me to be, but it didn't. It just numbed everything. And now the only reason that I know that I had a problem was because I've stopped. Like, even it was the last thing I stopped. I changed everything in my life to try and stop me being depressed or wanting to kill myself, apart from not drinking. Then I stopped drinking because I was like, I have to now because I'm going to die otherwise. And now I can look back on it and go, I see what was going on there. And I can see it in other people, but it's not down to me to tell them what's going on. It's down to them to read my book and to listen to what I'm saying and go, maybe I should talk to someone about this, whether it's me or you, whether it's a DM on Instagram, whether it's an email, whether it's whatever it is. You don't have to phone Alcoholics Anonymous. You don't have to go to Alcoholics Anonymous. You don't have to go to a meeting. You don't have to get a sponsor. I totally agree with you. I think that the alcoholism business is a business. The stopping drinking business is a business. And people tell you, you should do this, you should do that. You cannot do this alone. I, like you, have done it alone. I've done it with a little bit of support from friends and family, but I've done the whole thing by myself. I've been to 2 AA meetings. I was like, this isn't for me. You're pulling God into this too much for me and I can't deal with it. So that's just not for me. I don't have a sponsor. I've got a couple of alky friends. My friend Alan, do you know Alan, the running monk? Alan Bateson.
No, I don't.
He's fucking great. You'd love him. But I don't have anyone close and I don't have anyone. It's all on me because I'm like, this is about me and it's my thing. My higher power, if there is one, is my dog. And my number one reason for being around is to offer comfort and help to other people and be like, this is okay and it's totally cool and it's totally normal. You're allowed to be an addict. You're allowed to be depressed. You're allowed to be, you are enough exactly as you are, whatever state you're in. That's okay. You don't have to be perfect.
See, I never use the word addict. Not. I worked a lot. I worked for 3 years in I worked in a clinic for 3 years, and I've seen all the different sort of languages that people kind of use.
What would you use then?
For me, it's just a life experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think for me personally, I don't want that negative connotation sort of.
So the negative connotation has got nothing to do with the word addict. It's got everything to do with people's judgment.
Yes,
the word
yes,
addict.
exactly.
There's nothing wrong with the word addict. Language is neutral. All language is neutral, right? If you are a gym addict, is that a bad thing? No. If you are a whatever addict, I don't know, if you're addicted to giving money to charity, is that a bad thing? Nope. If you're addicted to crack cocaine, is that a bad thing? Yep. Because it's the value judgment we put on the situation. So when people say, don't use this word, don't use that word, I'm always like, zoom out of it and make it neutral. Everything's neutral. All words are neutral. It's your judgment and your value judgment that you're putting on it. There is nothing wrong with being addicted. It's ritualized comfort seeking. We are all addicted to stuff all the time. That is okay. We're addicted to eating. It's okay. And I think it's taking the weight out of that stuff that helps people to talk about it. Take the weight out. Don't try and fudge it into something else. Tell people to take the weight out.
Yeah, I get it. It's a difficult one. This not a lot of people kind of get me on it, especially those that have been through the 12-step program, because a lot of the language attached to that is quite stigmatic.
100%. I totally agree with you.
I want people to know you're not an addict. You're a fucking legend. You just haven't realised it yet. An addict is a word other people use out of fear because they're scared at either your honesty or what you're going through. And a big part of, I think, if we're going to call it recovery, is positive self-image.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so hard for people when they're down on their luck, possibly going to lose their kids to social services, had a 30-year experience of this bloody thing, and all they got in their mind is, I'm an addict. And it's like, I've never said that about myself. People can call me skydiver, qualified pilot, ultra runner, world traveller, Antarctic explorer, best-selling author, wannabe good father, there's a whole like, qualified youth worker, except, there's a whole range of things.
But don't you think it's a good thing for someone like me to go, I'm an addict? And have people go, that's fucking cool. Because you're a nice, normal human being. Because
yeah.
they're everywhere. We can't change language. You can't change it by yourself. This is how people see it. So present yourself as this person and be fucking awesome about it. It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
Like, it's be fucking awesome about it. Of course I'm in recovery. It's going to take me my entire life to recover from the fucking 28 years I've had before. I'm probably never going to recover. That's okay as well. I'm just looking after myself. It's cool. It's fine. That's what I'm trying to do with this whole like Instagram thing. And it's like, I've got no shame in it whatsoever. I talk about a lot of stuff in that book that is really, really, in inverted commas, shameful to society. But it's not shameful. It happened to me, and it's happening to millions of people all over the fucking world all the time. Yeah. It's okay. Present yourself as awesome. Say, these are the things that are happening to me and have happened to me, and that's still okay. Like, I don't.
Ali, we're talking two different things, aren't we? I'm 100% in agreement with you because I've walked the same journey as you. So, like, I completely get it. I'm talking about the terminology that's used so freely in society, and all I'm trying to do is bring people around to thinking like, if your mother or your wife, or husband, if they got cancer, and like I waltzed around and said, "Hell, hi Marge, I heard you're a cancer," like I'd expect you to like punch me out of your front door as fast as I came in. Right? It's labeling people by an illness or a mental health condition.
That's on other people, though.
Yeah. No, Ali, I get it.
So I think what we're trying to do.
I get it. I'm agreeing with you. Yeah. I'm just trying to make people aware of how like sick we are as a society that we use these words about people that have been battered from pillar to post for the most part since as bloody toddlers, and B who are the salt of the earth, albeit it doesn't always, we don't always behave like that when we're in the throes of addiction, and C are unwell. And yet it's perfectly fine to and I'm saying no. With me, fucking buck stops here, folks. I'm sorry. The proudest thing in my life is that I experienced addiction. It's given me everything. It's given me the perfect family. It's given me every adventure I ever wanted. It's given me a great podcast, and I get to meet wonderful people like you, Ali, I just think that the language we adopt is so powerful, and it all needs a bit of rethinking, because I know you know what you mean, and I know what I mean, but it still fucking guts me that I've had top psychologists, and they so Chris, right, he's an alcoholic. I went, whoa, let me just stop you. No, he's not. He's a father.
Experiencing alcoholism.
Yeah. He's a great person. He's achieved this. He's done that. Why you've just referred to your patient, as they love to call them, in like with respect to the most challenging thing he's got going on in his that psychologist went, bloody hell, Chris, no one's ever put it like that. So I said, no, they haven't, because we, society is society, isn't it? And it needs challenging. It's, people say, I'm clean. What do you mean clean? There's nothing dirty about having a mental health condition. What
not.
Why are we suggesting?
Also nothing dirty about alcohol. Alcohol's a sanitizer. So bizarre.
Yes.
So bizarre.
Ali, can I just ask you then, and you don't have to even answer this if you don't want, certainly you'll give us, but I mean, I don't like talking about my childhood for two reasons. A, it's done and dusted, and I went on a plant ceremony once, and the one thing I took away from it, 'cause it wasn't a particularly pleasant experience, but the one thing I took away is I'm going to cut that intrusive memory away from my life now. I had one memory left that I used as like my anchor to like what went on. And I thought, fuck it, Chris, you're a dad now. Cut that fucker, cut it away. And that's what I did. It's trying to get in there now, and I'm literally holding it like there. And but the other thing is it makes it sound like you regret having a tough childhood, and the irony is, even when it culminated in me homeless in my school uniform, smoking a fag at like 8 a.m. as all the other kids went off to school with their, happy families. I remember smoking that fag and thinking, do you know what? I wouldn't have my life any other way. I don't want an easy life. And it, like I say, it's all worked out well. But yourself, do you have any kind of thoughts on the drivers behind your drinking?
What, in what way?
Like, was it a child? Did you have shit in childhood?
There's no poor me story. There's the fact that I was. It's all in the book. So when I was 11, I came from quite a big family. Mum, dad, four of us, and me. We had no money, not a lot of money. When I was 11, I passed the 11 plus, and that meant I went to girls' grammar school. I did not want to go to the girls' grammar school, and my dad was like, "You're going," and I was like, "I don't want to go." He was like, "You're going," so I went. I had no money. We were really poor. Obviously, most of the other girls at the grammar school had got in through because they'd gone to private school before, and I was bullied mercilessly. It was awful. And when on that first parents' evening, they said to my dad, "She's underage for reading, writing, maths, all of it. She needs to buck her ideas up, get clever." And I, until that point, had been a real daddy's girl. And I remember him driving me out of the school gates and saying to me, "You need to sort yourself out. You need to be better. You're not good enough." And that was the first time I'd not been enough for him. And it broke my heart into a million bits. And I'll never forget it. And I was 11. And I was like, I need to be better. And as I was growing up, I'm 42, so I was growing up in sort of 80s and 90s. Alcohol was presented as everywhere, all the time, as the fun thing. If you were having fun, you were drinking. So either in the pub or at parties or whatever it was, there was always booze. It was always fun. So I started drinking when I was 13, 14 because it was available. And I was like, only little stubby beers. It's not like I was drinking straight vodka or whiskey or anything. And when I was 16, my dad pissed off with somebody else, right? And lied to me about it. So that was the second instance where I was like, I'm not enough. He's left someone else because I'm not good enough. Even though I've tried to be good enough, I'm not. And those were the things that drove my alcoholism. You're not good enough. Men do not think you're good enough. So I slept with every bloke I could find. I got as pissed as I possibly could. I went to every nightclub I could. I went to and I basically had this terrible relationship with men where I tried to make myself enough by minimizing myself, because I was constantly told I was too much or too little throughout all my careers, throughout everything I've ever done. The music industry is an arsehole of an industry to work in. Really awful, because they are like, you're lucky to be here. You're not fucking lucky to be here. They're lucky to have you, but you believe them. Also, you're surrounded by enablers, and you're surrounded by, booze and drugs and everything. So you're like, it's normal. Everything's normal. And if you can't handle it, there's something wrong with you. If you can't handle constantly poisoning yourself, having depression and anxiety, not thinking that you're good enough, there's something wrong with you. So like, that's where it all came from. And I never dealt with any of it. I never spoke about any of it, because in the late 80s, early 90s, there was that whole, if you've got nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. If you're from a big family, don't bring the tone down. There wasn't any mental health awareness. There wasn't any of that. So I drove my whole life like, I'm better when I can't deal with these thoughts and feelings, so I'm just going to drink them away all the time for 20 odd years. My behavior in some of those times was absolutely abhorrent. Absolutely abhorrent. Some of the stuff that went on was awful. And then I found running, in inverted commas. But did I stop drinking? No. Was I using running as another self-harm mechanism? Yes. Did I just go and run a few marathons? No, I didn't. I started running 100-mile ultras. I started running across countries. I started and then being like, you're not even good enough at this. You know, I was running pissed. I was running hungover. I was running without eating. Running didn't save me. Like, running made it worse. And because you can find lots of enablers within running, and there's a lot of socialness within running. So you could be like, everybody thought that I was the one they went for a drink with after a run, but I went for a fucking drink with everybody. I drink on runs. Like, we're not short of beer marathons in this country. And I was just desperately unhappy, and I wasn't being me. I was living in a vessel. I was a vessel, an empty fucking vessel that was just existing, not living. So I was going and doing these amazing things, but I was just existing through them till I could get to the next drink. The next drink would stop the voices and stop the thoughts and stop me thinking you're a piece of shit, which was my constant narrative.
How did what was your moment then? What was your epiphany, or what was your right? Hang on, we're going to change a few things here.
I got to the point where I tried to take my own life a number of times. And I got to the point where I was like, this is it, now we're done. And it was 2.5 years ago. It was in July. I'd been in a relationship with somebody which I shouldn't have been in. And COVID had happened. And there's a lot of stuff that piled up on top of each other, including me being completely isolated with no access to people or internet or anything, and being in this really awful relationship, gaslighty relationship with someone, and basically being so isolated that I just started to drink myself to death.
Is that what you'd call a narcissistic? That seems to be a big thing that people talk about at the moment.
I think there's a real danger in language. There's lots of trendy ways of describing stuff, isn't there? But the relationship I was in, I was in a relationship with someone that was married to somebody else, and who told me that they were no longer going to be married to this person, but was. So I was being told things were going to happen, they weren't. And I was alone in a city that I'd just moved to with no friends, no family, no access to the internet, in a lockdown. I was basically in a prison of my own making. And I got to the point where I was drinking 3 or 4 bottles of wine a day, and nobody knew. And this was just on top of 25 years of abuse of alcohol on my part, and I could feel myself sliding down, and the suicidal ideation was getting more and more, and every time I tried to do it, something got in the way, and I just kept pushing through thinking this will be okay, and then it wasn't okay, and everything just went bang. And I one day was like, either I go and ask for help or I die. And I went and asked for the help, and when I asked for the help, things happened really quickly, and I ended up going back to my ex-boyfriend's house. My ex-boyfriend is not the same as this person. He's a different person. He's my best friend. He's my dog's dad. He lived 300 miles away. Walking into his house, seeing my dog, who I'd not had access to for about 9 months, and feeling nothing, and going to that state of anhedonia. I don't know if you've ever been in that state of anhedonia where you feel nothing for no one. You feel nothing for your children. You feel nothing for your dog. You feel nothing for anyone, because you are in a state which precurses taking your own life. So you don't feel any feelings. And I was in that state for 3 days. And I was like, you have to now stop drinking, because if you don't, you're going to die. And I had this ticker tape moment, which I talk about in the book, which is you can never feel like this again. You can never feel like this again. Sorry, I'm getting upset talking about it. And I'll never forget that, because that was you're going to die. You're going to take your own life. And that's fucking horrible and terrifying. And if you've never been in that situation, good luck to you, because once you have been in it, and I'd never, ever recommend anyone gets into it because it's horrendous, it becomes easier to go, I'm going to just take stock of this, and I'm not going to do it anymore. And whenever I get tempted to be like, I'm better now, I can have one, or when I get angry, or when I get, because they obviously get triggered into those old behaviors, I just go back to that moment, because I'm like, no, because I cannot ever feel like that again. it scares the living shit out of me to feel like that again. So I've put in all these like boundaries in my life where I'm like, I don't have access to, if I feel like I'm going to feel like that again, I grab someone. I'm like, I feel like I'm going to feel like that again. And I can manage it. But that's on me to have those things in place, you know, and to recognize that and to not fall back into that. Because that was it. That was truly terrifying. And all the things I've done, like you, crossing countries on foot, being self-sufficient in jungles, jumping out of fucking aeroplanes, jumping off bridges, nothing I have ever done has frightened me as much as I frightened myself in those 3 days. It was horrendous. Absolute rock bottom, absolute barrel scraping. And then you've got to come back from it. And the coming back from it is hard, and it's everyday work. And you can't just read a book or go to therapy. You have to do the work, which is what I'm doing every fucking day now.
Let's talk about that then. So when you had this change about moment, what did you decide in that moment, right, this is what I've got to do, or this is what I don't do anymore?
In that moment, I was like, you're never going to drink again now. And it took me 10 weeks of being basically in the care of either my mum or my friend, like being in like adult lockdown in their house, you know, like you're not going anywhere, you're not going to work, you're not going back home, you're being watched all the time. I love the NHS, but they weren't helping me, and so I didn't have money to get private help, so I was very much like, you have to do this by yourself. 10 weeks, like cold turkey. Then I started to move back into society, and in that 10 weeks I went to see a psychiatrist like 5 times. I paid for it because I was like, I just need some help. And we started working around acceptance and commitment therapy, which is something that I really think is an incredible therapy for people to try, because it talks about accepting where you are and committing to changing the stuff that you can control to become like, so your thoughts become more helpful. Because there's no point in saying don't have bad thoughts, because you've already had the bad thought, it's already there. But you can think about that thought more helpfully. You can utilize those thoughts more helpfully. You can recognize, oh, I'm having a thought, rather than this is a thing that's happening. So I'm a massive fan of reading, and a massive fan of books, and a massive fan of like educating yourself. And I did that, and I read and read and read and read and read and made notes and read and made notes and read and made notes and read. And now I have like four books that literally sit next to me here that I'm like, these are my guidebooks, these are my Bibles, because they work for me.
Can we know what they are?
Around psychology. Yeah. So the first one is this one, The Happiness Trap. Russ Harris. That's the acceptance commitment book that I read, which is incredible. It's like a workbook, basically. The second one is this one. Oh, my books. I love my books. Brad Stulberg, Practice of Groundedness. He's an absolute legend. The third one is Do Hard Things by Steve Magnus, which is about resilience, toughness. And then Brad's just released another one called Master of Change, which is this one. This is a hard, but I'm loving that one. And they're not airy fairy self-help books. They are fucking science books where you're like, this is really interesting and this shit works. And all the coaching I do with my clients, the ultra coaching, is based around their brains and their minds rather than how many miles they're running. Of course, they have to run loads of miles as well, because you create everything with your mind. And if your mind is unhealthy, and if your mind isn't a great place to be, and if you don't know how your mind is working, or if it's blurred by any kind of drug, you're not working on a level that is empowering to yourself. So, you know, that's how it's worked for me. But I'm very, very aware that there, for the fucking grace of dog, go I. Because it's work you have to do every day, and it's really hard. And I think, you know, one of the things I talk to my clients about is sitting with those feelings and not trying to make those feelings go away or block them out. Sit with them and realize that thoughts are bastards. They're horrible, but the thought won't kill you. The action will. So it's about how you respond rather than react to those thoughts. Thoughts won't kill you. You're not the thought. You're just the thinker. And being able to zoom out of yourself and be like, I've noticed I'm having a thought about this, rather than this is a fact. Because most of the time it's not a fact. Motivated bias, cognitive bias, however you're skewed into thinking, past bias. I've got post-its all over my house that say things like your past has no effect on your future, because your brain will try and predict the future based on your past. So it'll be like, well, this has happened before, so it's going to happen again. It's like, that's bollocks, absolute bollocks, but we think it all the time. And I think understanding that, how your brain works, why it's working like that, just helps you to go, I get this now, I understand what's going on. And all your brain is trying to do is to protect you. Addiction is protection. Your brain's trying to protect you from harm by saying, if you have this, if you drink this, eat this, smoke this, inject this, you won't feel this pain. Your brain's doing a great job. Brilliant job. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's about you going, I've noticed I'm thinking that this will stop this, but I know it will only stop it for 20 minutes. Or I know it will only stop it for 10 minutes. I know it's not a long-term solution. It's about like engaging your prefrontal cortex and ignoring or listening to your lizard brain, but being like, I don't need you to talk to me about that right now. So all this is stuff that I work on all the time, every day. And the way I work on it is I test it on myself. And the way I test it on myself is I go and run 100 miles or 200 miles. And when I get to the point where I'm like, I can't do it anymore, I'm like, right, now you've got it. Like, what can't you do? What are you thinking? What's more helpful? How are you going to overcome this? And testing it in those environments works because you're safe. And you can then go, right, this worked, this didn't work, and help other people by saying, I know that everybody says you have to do it this way, but you don't really have to do it anyway. You can do it your way, because everyone's an individual, aren't they? So yeah, that was quite long. Sorry about that.
No, it's absolutely great. It's why we got you on the show, Ali. So in your day-to-day routine then, what when we say you got to do the work, and obviously the work encompasses a lot of stuff, doesn't it? So a bit, do some reading, folks, is good. Do you have any routines in your day, like the way you start the day, meditation, go for a jog?
I'm so bad at the meditation stuff because I've got a worry brain where I'm like thinking about things all the time. So, but I think meditation's a funny word because I think people think you've got to sit down with some bells and be quiet and like focus on your breath. I think it's just as easy to sit down with my dog, hold on to her ears for half an hour, be grateful for how soft her ears are, and get into a meditative state about that. And just as easy for me to go out for a run, get into a meditative state doing that. So I'm not a person that's ever had like a very strict routine. I find very strict routines quite stressful. But every morning when I wake up, the first thing I do is say to Pickle, my dog, you are beautiful, brave, and clever. That's the first thing I say to the dog. And let's face it, am I saying that to the dog or am I saying it to myself?
It'd be mental if the dog said it to you.
She says lots of things.
We'll get Pickle on a podcast then.
Everybody wants Pickle on a podcast. But so every morning when I wake up, I'm grateful for having my dog, or grateful for exactly where I am. And I think that's that. And then I run 5-6 times a week, but usually I'm training for something.
Do you think, Ali, that dogs or cats are so great because they give you the unconditional love, that it'd be great if humans could give each other that?
Absolutely 100%. And I write about this in the book because I never believed that love was unconditional. I always thought that love was a bartering process. And to a point, I still think it is between humans. I don't believe in unconditional love between humans. But with a dog, it's there. And I mean, you get dogs that are abused. My dog was a street dog, a Bulgarian street dog. She's got all sorts of things wrong with her. But and I've just come back from the Philippines where I've seen the street dogs in the Philippines, and it was heartbreaking, but they are street dogs. It's how it works out there. So you go up to a dog and it'll flinch because there isn't an unconditional love there. But the thing is, the dog will always come back to you. And I think it's about judgment more than unconditional. It's about Pickle doesn't judge me the way that humans might judge me, or the way that other humans may have judged me, or the way that I judge myself. She just loves my company. She absolutely, and that's incredible. And she also, has this like kindness of spirit that I think I've helped develop because I rescued her from certain death. So I think there's that there's that other thing. Sometimes you don't want, I say this in the book, depressed people don't want you, or people that, in inverted commas, have a problematic relationship with certain substances. They don't want you to save them. They want you to listen and accept and support. Depressed people don't want you to fucking solve the problem, because you can't. They want you to listen, they want you to love, they want you to support, they want you to accept, and they want you to be kind, not judgmental. The best thing someone can do when I say I feel like killing myself is be like, that's an interesting thought. How? And then you're like, oh, by driving my car into the wall. Oh, well, the thing about that is, and a lot of the time my friends will discuss with me why that's not going to work. And the next thing you know, we're talking about Married at First Sight Australia, and they're giving me a cuddle. That's all I want. I don't want them to go, oh my God, let's go get you some drugs and call the men in white coats. Or like, why? Why do you feel so sad? It's like, I fucking can't tell you why I feel so sad. I'm ill. Like, but what I want is just a cuddle and someone to make me laugh and to be like, let's watch something rubbish on TV and I hold your hand. That's all I want. That's what anybody wants. 2 ears, 1 mouth. Use them for that ratio.
Yeah, when I was going through the worst of my shit, I was just like, fucking, would everyone leave me alone? Just leave me alone. Let me do what I want to do. It wasn't even like I was massively harming anyone. I know it's not pleasant for families to go through, but it's just stop trying to change me. I need to go through this. I'm clearly in a learning period in my life, and this is the way it's... Oh, that was it. I think, for me, the whole worst thing about the addictive experience is fucking other people. It really was. I know, and I don't. I'm not judging people or being horrible to people. They probably really cared. It's just the fact that there's no understanding or education about this sort of thing. It's always been brushed under the carpet in society. Like you say, people they think it's like they're ashamed. And for me, it's like the proudest thing in my life is my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I know that, I don't know, I always wanted to be an hard person. I don't know if that's a bloke thing, but now I know that I'm pretty tough.
You should read that Steve Magnus book.
Yes. Oh gosh, that's another thing, Ali. There's so many bloody great books out there. Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm going to write these down before we say goodbye.
He's great, old Steve. He's a track and field coach, an American track and field coach, and his take on toughness is so brilliant, because it's like we have this version, and I'm sure that you understand this from being in the military, of like SAS style toughness, which is absolute bollocks when it comes down to what really makes people resilient. It's a quiet confidence rather than this fucking bravado, which is like the loudest person in the room is usually the most scared person. And,
I tell you now, you'll be careful how I say this, but veterans and military, they're the biggest cowards out there.
I'm obsessed with SAS Who Dares Wins. I love it. Anyone that follows me on Instagram will know that I'm obsessed with it, because I think it's fucking hilarious.
You'd be a good person to get on that.
No, I applied and I'm too old. Too old now, 42. That's sad. And also I can't do a press up. So I'm not sure that, Jason Fox would be up for me just trying to like kiss his face every time he walked past me. He'd be up for that.
But they're all in their 50s, and probably Billy's probably about 60 now. So.
I mean, I know. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, Rudy, where they get Rudy Reese from? The man's a fucking model. Anyway, I'm obsessed with it. But this whole idea about, how that's presented to the general public, and they're like, oh, that's brutal. That's this. Even races, brutal. This is the hardest race in the UK. This is the toughest. You've got to be the bestest. This is the most difficultest. It's like, fucking shut up about all that stuff. It's toxic. It's not cool. Like, for some people, running a half marathon is gonna be the hardest thing they ever do, and that is brilliant. It's not about how hard or fast or difficult or cold or wet or whatever it is. It's about saying to people, you're enough just as you are. And that whole thing with the experience of addiction is that even when someone is having that experience of addiction, saying to them, you are enough as you are. You are absolutely enough as you are, and we love you. And of course, we would like for you to be more well. But as you are now, we love you and we accept you. and you are going to be okay, whatever you choose to do, is so much better than saying, I'm going to help you give up the booze, because it can't be your decision to save someone. It has to be the individual's decision. That's why on the front cover of my book, on the chalkboard, it says running won't save you, because it won't. You have to save yourself.
Yeah, it reminds me when I give money to people on the street, there's always a proviso. So you're only allowed to spend this on drugs and alcohol, all right?
Just have a good time. Have a great time.
Let's talk about our beautiful sport, or one of the beautiful sports. So running then. Do you have a favourite distance, or are you kind of eclectic?
Oh, I love 100-miler. I love 100-miler. Oh, I love it. And I love a multi-day. I did like you, I did Land's End John O'Groats, but I did it a bit different. I did it 35 days, and we did it on trail and road. So we did a totally different route. We did Southwest Coast Path and up Offers Dyke, and yeah, and I loved that, because I just like, what I love is simplicity of the multi-day. You know, it's like all you have to do is eat, sleep, run, eat, sleep, run, eat, sleep, run. There's nothing else. It's one of the most primal things. And if you can put that into a bit of adventure into that too, like I used to go test routes for a big race company in the UK, so I'd be the first person to do them. So running across like Namibian deserts or jungles or frozen Mongolian lakes, putting that into it, and this is all you have to do is do this. Oh God, I love that. And that's something I'm definitely going to get more back into in the next couple of years, because I miss it. But yeah, give me a multi-day or give me a 100-miler. And then this year I did my first 200-miler, and I was like, at the time, I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever done. But in hindsight, I'm like, that was an incredible experience. So I'm definitely going to be doing more 200-milers next year.
And for people at home that are probably listening and thinking, what? You can run 200 miles? Can you tell us, what's tough about it? What part does it get tough? How do you deal with it? What kind of calories what sort of food are you eating to get you through it, Ali?
What, on a 200-miler? So I did the Wild Horse in the Brecon Beacons. It runs from Chepstow through to Rossilly Head. And I had a crew to support me. It was an event, a Pegasus event. They do it every year. And I had a crew to support me. And I had no idea what was going to happen, because I'd never done it before. I naively thought, oh, it's just 200-milers. So what, it will take me 48 hours? 50? No, it took me 82 hours. And that was one of my defining ever races, because that's where I had to pull all of this work I'd done out of the bag and be like, this is a mind over matter thing. Because obviously, you got to be fit, but I was fit. I knew I could run that distance, but all sorts of weird stuff happened in the epilogue. The epilogue of the book is about that race, and I basically got to check the first checkpoint where I was going to go to sleep at 60 miles, and somebody told me that I was winning, and that completely messed with my brain, because I'm like, she said you're winning. I heard, I expect you to win. And I went into really bad old thought patterns. I couldn't go to sleep. Then I got up and was like, oh my God, where is this second place person? So I had to run away from them without having had sleep. Wasn't eating properly, was just obsessed with this idea of winning and being the best, when actually that's not what I was there for. And I had to sit down and have a really calm conversation with myself, be like, you need to stop this shit, because you're ruining this experience by turning it into something that it never was at the start. And I managed to turn it around twice and get to the end of that race and finish it. And that was a real moment for me, like a real, you thought this was over for you in the middle of this race, and it wasn't, because you've managed to change your mind, and you've done it on your own. And yeah, there's a lot of absolute nightmarish stuff that goes on 200-milers. Night 3 behavior. Me and my friend Kirsty talk about that a lot.
Is that the hallucinating?
Yeah. My hallucinations were horrific. I had about 90 minutes sleep by the time I got to night 3, and I just had to go to sleep for 3 hours because I was crying, and there was bins running around and robots stabbing babies and all sorts of weird stuff was going on. Awful.
How do you know it wasn't actually going on?
Because my pacer was with me, Julius, Pickle's dad. He was just in front of me, and I'd been crying for about an hour, just sobbing as I was following him. And then I was like, I can't do it anymore. big robot stabbing babies. And I was like, there's a bin. And I was like literally jumping out of my skin at this imaginary bin. And the next, I had 3 hours sleep. I got up and I was like, right, I'm going to show you where the bins were, Julius. He's like, there are no bins. I'm like, no, there were bins. I know they weren't moving, but there were bins. And I went back to where these bins were and there were no goddamn bins. But I was like so obsessed with the idea that these bins had been running around. I was like, there must have been a bin. There wasn't a bin. But yeah, I loved it. It was incredible. And I think that I like crossing countries. I like going from A to B. I like doing a big old, like looking at a map and going, I ran across that. Like, I love that. I find it really, and now having the gratitude I have for being alive and being able to think clearly, like being outside is my absolute jam. Like, I just want to be outside at the time. And so the longer I can spend outside, the better, even if it means night 3 behavior starts happening.
Friends at home, can I just say how wonderful it is to have so many people watching. Could we get some likes, friends? If you can like and subscribe to the channel, and please make sure you're still subscribed, because for some reason YouTube unsubscribes loads of people from our channel. Yes. What about Marathon Disablers? Is that something you might consider?
The thing about MDS, right? I believe Marathon des Sables is the London Marathon of multi-day running. So it's too expensive. Too many people do it. It's suffering for suffering's sake, in my eyes, like the whole tent situation. It's not that beautiful. Everyone's done it. I'm not interested. So if someone paid for me to go and do it, I'd do it. But otherwise, I'm not interested. I know so many people that have done it. There's so much about it. I'm much more into like doing things other people don't do. Like, I've got a lot of world firsts to my name, and I'm like, thing of the fastest own time or winning a race is someone can take that away from you. But a world first, you will always be the first person to ever have done that. So I'm much more into that stuff. And so, yeah, it just, it's not one that interests me.
What about running?
Different strokes for different folks.
Running across us. I got into it by accident. Some drunken, bloody French Foreign Legion guy kept calling me up, saying, Chris, we march or die. We march or die.
I'm obsessed with the French Foreign Legion. Obsessed with them.
So I said, all right, we'll march or die, but you're paying for it. He went, yeah, no problem. I've got a big trucking company. So he was going to pay for us to go in the Marathon of the Sands. He said, friends at home, it's as you can see in the picture, it's a 7-day race across the Sahara Desert. When I did it, it was 52 degrees heat, and a third of the people either collapsed or just like dropped out. And you run either a marathon or 2 marathons a day. And this guy was going to pay for it, Ali. He said, "Oh, Chris, I'll send you like, you know, my CV. You'll want to know all about me." I'm like, "No, don't worry about that." I said,
hang on a minute. Is it the French Foreign Legion?
Well,
you're allowed to send people your CV when you're the French Foreign Legion.
Ex-legionnaire, but probably.
Are you allowed to tell people you're an ex-legionnaire?
Oh, there's loads of them. We've had legionnaire on the podcast. I try and get a lot of them to come on, but the thing is, Ali, most of them, almost every single one to a man that I've met, bar one, they left because they went AWOL because it was so shit.
That's it. And if you've done that, can't they come and chop your head off?
Yeah,
or something.
Apparently,
like that, anyway.
I don't know if you get banned from France for your life or something. But so I said, no, don't worry about that stuff, mate. I said, I'll meet you on the start line, and if you're a knob, I'll just leave you behind. And that was the thing. So I phoned up Sarah at the Marathon des Sables. I said, look, I know it's a 3-year waiting list, but
is it?
It was a 3-week. Yeah, it was before the old Scovey. It was a 3-year waiting list, but because of the lockdown, loads of people had pulled out. Mm-hmm. And she said, yeah, I've actually got 2 places. So she gave me 2 places under the proviso, obviously we got to pay for it. And when I tried to get back to this French legionnaire, could I get hold of him? His phone was just going to answer machine. His emails was no reply. I think the reality is that if you challenge me to do something, I'll just say yeah and do it. That was a bit much for him. So there I am. I've got a ticket to the this iconic sort of race that I've watched Ben Fogle and the like do.
Yeah.
My neighbour once ran it. He was in the Marines when he ran it, actually. And so I spoke to my lovely girlfriend. I said, look, I wouldn't have been that bothered if I didn't have a ticket, but now I've got a ticket. It just seems a shame to not take this chance, and maybe it's back to a waiting list next year or something. So she very kindly treated me to a ticket, and they're not cheap.
No, I know.
Like, it's ridiculously. It's I was thinking, for the $7,000 all in that it costs you, you could probably spend $1,000, have a bloody decent holiday in Morocco, and then go out running every day, which is
and not have to sleep in a tent with a load of idiots.
Yes, it's
I just think that it's just, anyway, that's my opinion. My opinions on the MDS are very well known throughout the internet, so
yes.
I'm going to leave it there.
Yes, it was an interesting experience. But yes, Ali, listen, love to have you back on the show. The reason I say that is I don't want to talk too long now, because people will look at this podcast and go, I'm not watching a 2-hour podcast, so I haven't got time, which is a shame, because we've talked about such bloody beautiful, valuable stuff that I want everyone to look at it and go, oh, it's an hour and a half. I've got time for that. So we'll have to get
Listen to it when you run.
There you go. Yes.
Well, I do my podcast. I mean, I present a podcast every week, and it comes on a Saturday morning. Perfect for park run.
Yeah.
Listen to it on the way to park run. Listen to it around park run. But if it's not there, people get upset about not having anything to listen to.
Podcasts go hand in hand with running, because it really does sort of take your mind off things.
Yeah, or even you can do, a little bit of education. 2 things for the price of 1. You're doing your run, and you're listening to somebody talking about running.
Oh, on that note, I meant to ask you. I know music's very important to you. Is what kind of music when you're running, or do you not?
I have a playlist called the Bailey Ultrasound System on Spotify. Anyone can find it. It's literally everything from Danny Bird and old school garage to Bon Iver. It's got everything on it, because I find listening to music that I absolutely love better than listening to the right BPMs type stuff. So yeah, that playlist is absolutely banging. And the book has a song for every chapter that I want people to listen to before they read the chapter, because I worked in music for a long time and music is really important to me. And again, there's a Spotify playlist of those songs.
Brilliant. Ali, stay on the line just so I can thank you properly after this and take down the name of those books. But for the purposes of the tape, massive thank you for coming on the show, sharing your enlightening story, showing some hope out there. Friends, as Ali said, I always think it's funny, because I suppose back in the day, half the problem for me was addiction was shameful. I don't think of it now, because I wrote books about it. I think more in terms of what it's done for me.
Yeah, and I think, do you know what? Go back to that language, giving something up. You're addicted, you need to give something up. You're not giving anything up. You're gaining everything.
Yes.
It's about gaining. So I think that's where language needs to change. Yeah. You're not giving anything up, you're gaining everything. And I have that written around my house everywhere.
Ali, when you say you're a coach, are you a running coach, or do you coach people through life as well?
Well, it's very weird. I've actually just been nominated for Coach of the Year at the Running Awards.
I saw that. Yes, I was showing that on your website.
I am a running coach. I train people how to run really long endurance events, but I do it more holistically. So I'd say it's 70% mental training, and then the rest of it is you need to go out and do your runs, your long runs. But what are you thinking when you're doing your long runs? What's been holding you back? When you want to stop, why do you want to stop? What are the thoughts that are going on? So we do a lot of brain work around it, loads of brain work around it. And usually the people that come to me are already I'm aware that I'm troubled by this thought. I'm aware. I've got a few people that are I think I'm worried about my relationship with alcohol, and I'm like, great, let's crack on with that together. So yeah, it's a much more holistic coaching thing than.
What's the best way if people want some support? How can they get hold of you? I've put a link for your book. Friends, link for the book is below. Link for Ali's Instagram is below the video.
Yeah, so it's DM me on Instagram, message me on, there's a website, alibailey.co.uk. To be quite honest with you, I can't take on any more coaching clients at the moment because it's too much. I've got too many. And with what's happening next year with the book, it's like I need to slim that down a little bit. But there's a tour, there'll be a tour next year, speaking tour next year. I'm at the National Running Show, got my little workshop area this year. And yeah, basically by February, if you are interested in running and you're on social media, you won't be able to avoid me and it'll get really annoying for a month.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Ali, I'm glad it's all going so well for you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Friends at home, thank you so much for watching this show. If I can just ask you once again, could you please like, subscribe and share? That would be great. If you want to consider buying one of my books, that would also help the channel no end. If you need a spot of support and you would like to chat about coaching, inexpensive coaching, folks, I should add, send me an email through my website or through the information on YouTube. You can find an email. And the last thing, I just want to give a special shout out to all our Patreons, the people that support us on Locals or who have just become a YouTube channel member, all of which you can do for as little as $1.99 a month. And it helps me to host wonderful guests like Ali and hopefully support those people out there that might need some support, but also support the people that might not be struggling but might be wondering what their next challenge is in life. And there you go, it's to run 200 miles, folks. You heard it from Ali.
200 miles, this is the new 100 miles apparently. Yeah. So
brilliant. Much love to you, Ali, and much love to everybody at home. We'll see you all soon.